This is the GPD Win Mini, and it's essentially a hybrid Windows handheld gaming PC. It's amazing that this thing actually even exists considering what it can do for its size. So I've had it for a few months now and used it in multiple situations, but most especially for travel and other times when portability is the most important thing to consider. Now, the Win Mini comes packed with a ton of tech built right into it that really make it stand out as a multi-purpose device. It's been great most of the time I've had it, especially when used for gaming, media consumption, and productivity on the go. Notice how I said most of the time? Well, to be honest, using it hasn't been without some pretty tough limitations as well. I'll explain this in more details as we go. First off, let's check out the hardware and all the tech built right into it. The first thing you'll notice when you first pick up the Win Mini is how small it is. This thing is so small that when placed right next to the iPhone 15 Pro, it's only slightly shorter in width. The portability of a device is arguably the most important factor to consider when picking up something to use on the go, and the Win Mini definitely qualifies as portable. I'd say it's essentially pocketable, but that's depending on the size of the pocket in question. For some pockets, it's going to fit very easily, while for others, it might struggle or outright just not fit at all. Something else that really contributes to the portability of the Win Mini is its form factor. It uses a clamshell design similar to one of the older Game Boy Advance systems, and that really brought back some nostalgia for me. Whenever it's in the open state, it splits in two halves, with the top side housing the 7-inch display and the bottom side housing the brains, the controls, and pretty much everything else. Something else I really like is how the hinge at the middle allows for a wide range of rotation to the point where the screen is almost in line with the base. I've often found that this is a very useful thing to have in different scenarios. As for the weight, it's pretty light for what it can do and also in comparison to other devices with very similar functions. The Win Mini can only be picked up in a black color with a glossy finish. As for buttons and controls, the Win Mini uses a hybrid design, which is both a blessing and a curse. With this design, you have access to a full-size backlit keyboard and a touchpad, both built into the base of the device. You also have right and left joysticks, ABXY, menu, and custom buttons, as well as a D-pad, all built into the top area of the base as well. On the back of the base, you'll find triggers and bumpers that complete the Win Mini's game controller. The keyboard and trackpad are both very small, but they work great and come in very handy a lot of the time. People with large fingers will definitely struggle to use the pair of them. I definitely won't use them for any kind of serious work or gaming, or even suggest trying that. I found out that this design combining a gamepad with a keyboard and mouse pad works great, but it also comes with issues. First off, the ergonomics is severely affected because of this, and it can become really uncomfortable to use the Win Mini for long sessions, or even if you just naturally have average to large sized hands. Something worth noting is that the joysticks use Hall effect, so they have no dead zones and they have a higher chance to last long, but they're also recessed, which I'm sure some people will not like. For me, I've adapted to it and I found that I can use it without any issues, but if I had to pick a device based on its joysticks alone, the Win Mini definitely will not be it. I should also mention that GPD sells grips that can be attached to the Win Mini if one is looking to add better gamepad ergonomics to the device. Keep in mind though that this takes a lot away from its super compact nature. It's easy to install and tools are provided for the process, so no worries there. Moving on to the I/O ports. The Win Mini comes equipped with a versatile set of ports for different use cases. Every port on it is located on the rear, and starting from the right side, there's a BIOS reset port, two USB Type-Cs, a gamepad, and a mouse mode toggle, audio jack, SD card slots, and most notably, an Oculink port. As for the USB-C ports, one is USB 4 with fast transfer speeds, while the second is a slower USB 3.2. One thing I've realized after using multiple handhelds is that having at least two USB Type-C ports on a device like that has so many benefits. It increases how many USB-C devices one can have connected at the same time, which is great in so many different situations. The USB 4 port is also fast enough to use with external GPUs, which increases the usability of the Win Mini. The Oculink port is another way to hook the Win Mini up to an external GPU, except it offers a more reliable and a faster connection between both devices. As for speakers, there's nothing special about the ones that come stock in the Win Mini. It's pretty much what you'd expect from a device with two tiny little speakers. If you want premium sound, you'll want Bluetooth earbuds or a pair of headphones. The display on the Win Mini is a 7-inch 1080p LED touchscreen with a maximum refresh rate of 120 Hz. The screen also supports 60 Hz and switching can be done easily from the display settings menu. The bezel around the screen isn't very slim, but it's also not very thick. The screen can get really bright as well and is equivalent to about what you'd expect from the ROG Ally at maximum brightness. Colors look pretty good as well, and they're vibrant, and the image quality at 1080p looks great on the small screen. If having a display with VRR is important to you, then the Win Mini might not be for you as it does not come with that. I still haven't noticed the effect of having it on the Win Mini, so I think it's safe to say it's fine without that feature, but it certainly would be nice to have that. There's a variety of configurations of the Win Mini to pick from, all at different prices. They all come with either a 7840U or the less powerful 7640U processor. The unit I've got has a 7840U, 32GB of RAM, and 512GB of storage. Specs like that in such a small device makes the Win Mini great for gaming, multitasking, and productivity on the go. If you're considering upgrading the storage on it, keep in mind that it uses a 2230 style SSD, which means you can only install up to a maximum of 2 TB, but the process is very fast and easy. Now, with all that power comes great responsibility, but I'm not sure if Windows OS on the Win Mini is equipped for the responsibility of handheld gaming. Using Windows on literally every handheld PC I've tried has always been with issues. There's a constant need for updates, which usually gets worse when a device hasn't been used in a long time. Then there's the UI, which isn't very user-friendly for a handheld, but thankfully the Win Mini is built like a laptop, so this isn't much of a problem for it. Another disadvantage of Windows is all the bloatware that it comes with and the background processes that it runs, which end up eating into the battery life of the Win Mini. To make matters worse, the stock software for controlling things like TDP looks very primitive and may be intimidating for most people to use. It's also possible to download a third-party software to get around this issue or even replace Windows with something less bloated and more user-friendly, but I'm sure most people aren't willing to do this. The last thing of note here is that there's no game mode or handheld software with a nice and user-friendly interface pre-installed on the Win Mini. You'll have to use it like a normal PC or install a third-party game launcher like Play Night if you want a console-like experience. Gaming on the Win Mini works really well, and that's thanks to the power that it draws from that 7840U processor and the 32GB of RAM inside it. As long as you're able to make peace with its ergonomics, you'll find that gaming on the Win Mini is really fun and great for on-the-go usage. As with other 7840U devices, the Win Mini is able to handle most games that you throw at it, including AAA titles. How well it handles it now depends on the amount of power that the system is drawing at the time. In other words, the TDP amount. This is essentially what controls performance, and the higher it's set, the more performance is expected, and vice versa. Unfortunately, the TDP amount also affects battery life in the opposite direction, where the higher it's set, the lower the battery life, and vice versa. This means you'll want to play more demanding games or play at higher refresh rates and resolutions only when connected to power. If you try to do that while on battery, expect really short play times. On battery, I found that it's best to play around 15 watts TDP, which puts out a good amount of performance that's still enough to play most games at decent frame rates. I tend to only use the Win Mini when on the move, so I find myself playing a lot of older AAA titles in my backlog on it more often than not. At 15 watts, I've been able to consistently get smooth gameplay sessions out of the Win Mini, playing at 1080p most of the time. One game I've really enjoyed playing on the Mini is GTA 5. It runs really well at 15 watts, and I'm able to get close to a steady 60 frames per second at 1080p with up to 2 hours of playtime on battery. I was also able to get some great 1080p gameplay at 15 watts playing games like Mad Max and Days Gone. I found it best to just stick to playing at 15 watts just to get the best performance out of it. Playing at higher TDPs will only hasten how fast the system heats up and how hot it gets. One of the biggest issues that I've experienced using the Mini, especially at high TDPs, is that it heats up very quickly, becoming too hot to hold on to. This really limits how long one can use a device for, and I'm sure the heat dissipation system being in close proximity to the gamepad is a major reason for this. It gets so hot at high TDPs to the point where the ABXY and the D-pad buttons begin to burn your fingers, and trust me, it's not pleasant at all. Even when playing at 15 watts, the system still gets fairly hot and difficult to use for extended periods. It just doesn't get as uncomfortably hot and also not as quickly as when playing at higher TDPs. Remember, you can also pick up the detachable grips that provide an additional layer between your hands and the hot points on the back. This does not completely eliminate the heat problems, but it definitely alleviates it. Another issue I've noticed using the Win Mini is that the fans get annoyingly loud at high TDPs, including when playing at 15 watts. This, in combination with the heat issues from playing at high TDPs, makes for a very uncomfortable experience if you plan on playing for long sessions on it. Now, the Win Mini comes with a decent battery for its size. There still hasn't been any major innovations in battery tech, so do not expect long playing times here. It's definitely nothing major, but when playing at 15 watts, I've been able to consistently get close to 2 hours of playtime out of it in different games. This amount will of course be reduced at higher TDPs, but I found 15 watts to be good enough for most of my on-the-go gaming sessions. It also charges very quickly using the provided 65-watt charger or a similar third-party charger, so getting back to a full charge in no time is quick. In conclusion, I tried loving the Win Mini and believe it's a solid device with a lot of potential. Unfortunately, it's also got some major flaws in its current state. Now, despite all of that, I still enjoy occasionally bringing it around with me for on-the-go usage or when I want a portable that has a lot of versatility. For gaming, I stick to 15-watt TDP or lower for a longer lasting battery and to reduce heat and fan noise issues associated with high TDPs. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. I hope you guys enjoy watching it. If you have any questions about the Win Mini, you can leave it down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. I look forward to catching you guys in my next video. It's Tommy, and I'm out, y'all.